Welcome to
In Between the Worlds podcast.
My name is Ruby Guzman.
And I'm Leslie Lopez.
In the podcast, we're going to talk about the popular Hispanic legend of La Llorona, also known as the Weeping Woman.
There's many legends told from different parts of the world, but Hispanic legends and stories that are told start with brujeria. Due to a family member or friends doing brujeria, there can be consequences that lead to many generations of that family being cursed. La Llorona was a beautiful woman named Maria. Maria was born into a peasant family in a humble village. Her beauty attracted both poor and rich men. Maria marries a rich ranchero and soon bears 2 children. However, she soon saw her husband cheating with another woman. She was upset and mad that she drowned her 2 little boys. When she came back to her senses, she realized she murdered her children and ended up drowning herself as well. Sadly, she was unable to join them in the afterlife. Therefore, she roams around Earth looking for her boys in place of her own. She drags children to the river. She was a tall, thin spirit said to be blessed with natural beauty and flowing black hair.
The legend of the Weeping Woman always consists of her dead children and her spirit. La Llorona is often spotted in white crying over her children near running water. By some traditions, the ghost of La Llorona is feared. She is said to be vengeful and sees other children to drown in place of her own. By other traditions, she is there warning those who hear her wails will soon face death themselves. Sometimes she is seen as a disciplinary figure and appears to children who are unkind to their parents.
What is the story your family told you of La Llorona?
The story that my family has told me of La Llorona was that she was a beautiful woman named Maria who lived in a poor village, and she married a rich ranchero that came to her village, and she had 2 sons with him. And when she caught him cheating on her with another woman in her village, out of spite, she drowned her 2 sons in the nearby river.
What is your experience with La Llorona?
My experience with La Llorona is that I heard it when I lived in Mexico, and it was raining really hard that day, and it was in the middle of the night, and I went to get up and use the restroom, which was on the other side of the house, and I heard it from my window. From my window, there's a lamppost right there, and I remember telling my mom that someone was crying outside, and she told me not to go outside or do not pay attention to the crying. And then the next day I woke up and I told my dad what happened and that I heard her. He said that you'll never see her in the street floating. You'll see her floating from lamppost to lamppost.
What does the story of La Llorona mean to you and your family?
The story that La Llorona means to me and my family, I wouldn't say it has a significant meaning. I say that they used it as a way to scare us, to go to sleep early, or not to misbehave in any way.
Have you heard other versions of her story?
I have heard other versions of her story from many other my friends, but it's just depending on where you're from, they told you differently, or how your parents told you differently.
Do you have any questions for me?
Have you had any experience with La Llorona?
I personally don't have any experience with La Llorona, but my family has heard her crying from the lamppost.
Does the story have a significant meaning to you?
Her story doesn't have a significant meaning, but the only thing I would say her story meant to me when I was younger was to scare me so I could go to sleep early. Over 90% of Hispanic families tell their children about La Llorona, and about 10% of Hispanic families don't mention the legend of La Llorona to their kids. You can hear La Llorona in Mexico, but 80% of Latinos hear her in Xochimilco, Mexico City. La Llorona was cursed, por eso she roams Earth. La Llorona sometimes roams the southwestern of the United States, which includes Arizona, New Mexico, and adjacent portions of California, Colorado, Nevada, Oklahoma, Texas, and Utah. La Llorona was cursed by some brujas blancas since she killed her innocent children. There's 2 types of brujas. Las Brujas Blancas, which are known to be the good witches, and Las Brujas Malas, which are known to be the bad witches. La Llorona story was popular, but what if you got told a different version of her story? La Llorona had something to do with brujas, pero ¿qué era?
What I know about La Llorona being cursed is that they're white witches who are known to be the good witches, and that cursed her for the crime that she committed by drowning her two boys by the nearby river. The white witches cursed her by making her roam the nearby rivers or wherever there was water, to keep her looking for her dead sons. With that also being said, there has been said that she does take other children to replace of her own to uplift the curse. If I could ask La Llorona something, I would ask her why she drowned her sons for the actions that her ex-husband did, and does she now regret the decision that she had made many years ago? I would also think I would ask her if she did not have to roam the earth looking for her children, would she want to face them in the afterlife and tell them sorry for what she did to them? Even with her story being told in many ways, the story somehow always connects to the original story that was told. With the stories being different affects many people and what they think about the culture.
The story of La Llorona happened back in the 16th century. According to the latest version of La Llorona was actually La Meliche, a native woman who served as an interpreter, guide, and later mistress to Hernán Cortés during his conquest of Mexico. The conquistador left her after she gave birth and instead married a Spanish woman.
Even with La Llorona's story being told in many ways, the stories somehow always connect to the original story that was told. With the stories being different affects many people and what they think about the culture. Was there any stories that your family has told you about La Llorona as you grew up?
My family would tell me different versions of La Llorona, but recently my grandma told me that she heard La Llorona crying from her lamppost, from the lamppost outside her window, and she heard her crying and my grandma got scared, and my grandma saw it as a sign because the day after she heard her crying, her brother passed away, which he was my uncle, because my grandma says every time she hears like stuff like that or like someone crying or something, someone's gonna die.
The folktale story has been represented artistically in various gestures, in films, animations, arts, poetry, theater, and in literature, aimed at both adults and children alike. The legend is deeply ingrained in Mexican culture and among the Chicano Mexican population of the United States.
There's many perspectives of this myth of La Llorona, and it's interesting how there's different features, but we all know her by La Llorona. The legend of La Llorona has changed over time, but it still has similar features. I've never heard La Llorona like in person or anything. My family always tells me stories of La Llorona, but weeks ago in the night I heard someone crying and I was like, is it La Llorona or no? Y después se escuchaba como una señora llorando and I wasn't sure who it was, but I'm pretty sure it was my mom crying. No me digas.
Once again, my name is Ruby Guzman.
And I'm Leslie Lopez.
We want to say thank you for listening and taking the time out of your day to listen to
In Between the Worlds podcast.
We want to say a special thank you to the Gamer Marker Queen for letting us use the sound Green Slave's Creepy Child for RPG. And thank you to Theo Trevant for letting us use the sound Sad Horror Music. And thank you to
Sonidos
of La Llorona Effects.
and we will see you on the other side of the world.